Good morning. So I wanted to jump on today and talk about the concept of eating well and still enjoying yourself this summer as we're getting into this spring and summer period where there's a lot more happy hours and barbecues and social events. And I was talking to my girlfriends the other day and I was asking them right now what are kind of some of their biggest hang-ups and health issues at the moment, because that's what happens when you are friends with a health coach. And what they were telling me is the biggest thing is now that it's into this, especially in Seattle, this like more social season, it's just really hard to be able to find a balance and feel good while still being able to say yes to social events. So I wanted to get on and talk about this because I feel really passionately that it is possible and it doesn't have to be either or. It doesn't have to be eat healthy and sit at home eating kale and sipping chamomile tea and saying no to social events versus going out, eating and drinking anything you want and feeling really bad, but having a great time. It doesn't have to be either or. And we can strike this middle balance. And there are three main things that I kind of want to talk to you about in relation to this. And I could say things like make sure you drink a bunch of water before, or crowd out with vegetables, or eat well while you're there, all of this. But honestly, I find the mindset piece to be the most important part. Not a lot of people talk about it. So I really want to talk about this today. So this idea of mindset, or figuring out your why, as I like to call it, to why you are eating healthy, why you want to feel good, is really crucially important. So for example, for me, my why is because I know that food really, really affects my digestion and my autoimmune symptoms. And I was telling you guys a couple weeks ago, spring is a really hard season for me with my immune system, so I have to be extra careful about what I'm putting into my body and what I'm doing, what I'm consuming around this time. I went to a barbecue at my friend's house the other week, and right now what works best for me is avoiding sugar and gluten, and currently I'm avoiding coffee and wine as well, because those are two things that weren't making me feel as good for this period of time. So my why for this is really strong and pretty powerful, because I know that if I eat these things, it's going to affect my digestion. My immune system will be affected. And so I'm trying to avoid having to go on more medications, having flare-ups of autoimmune disease, feeling worse, feeling symptoms. That's a really powerful why. If I were to go into that same situation thinking that my why or my reasoning for eating healthy or avoiding certain foods was weight loss, you better believe I'd be drinking that wine the second anyone asked if I wanted a glass, or eating cookies, because it's not a powerful motivator for me. And you can see how it'd be easy to veer off of your plan if your why is not in alignment with what you really want. So what is your why? Think about it right now. Why do you want to feel good? Why do you want to eat healthy? What is motivating you? If the first thing that comes up for you is to lose weight, keep going. Why do you want to lose weight? Is it to reduce the joint pain in your knees? Is it to look good naked? Is it to feel good in your body and have more self-confidence? From those, go even further. Why do you want to reduce the pain in your knees? Is it so you can keep up with your kids? So you can go hiking because that's your passion, to be in nature? Keep going. Keep asking yourself why, and find these motivators and really, really connect to it. It could be, they could be like me, motivating to not have autoimmune symptoms or to different symptoms of disease. It could be anything. It could be anything, but it has to be in alignment for you, and you have to identify it. That's the first important piece in this whole process of being able to stick to a plan or stick to the idea of how to feel good when you are in these social situations. And so that's the first piece. The second piece is to start with a good foundation. So to be able to make good choices, you need to know what works for you and what doesn't. So we're all so different and thrive with different foods in our bodies. And, in general, it's advised to avoid overly processed foods, refined sugars, and eat a diet with lots of nutrient-dense vegetables. But from there, we have to take into account our own unique bodies and needs. And this involves tuning into your body and experimenting with what works and what doesn't. So once you really know how certain foods make you feel, and you consistently incorporate foods that make you feel good while taking out foods that make you feel bad, you create a really good foundation and your body responds accordingly. So once you have this solid foundation, it's a lot easier to veer on and off and know how to come back to your baseline, so that if you have a social event where you're going to be drinking a little bit more alcohol or having some foods that you don't usually have, that that's going to be okay for you. You know what it's going to do to your body, and you also know how to bring yourself back into balance, because it's all about balance. So you know that if you go out that one night, maybe the next night, what your body is asking you is to just have a really simple, good home-cooked meal of foods that can bring you back into balance. But if you don't have that good foundation to start with and that knowledge of what works for you and what doesn't, it's going to be a lot harder to navigate that area. So if that all sounds really gray and vague and you're like, how do I get this good foundation? That's what I help people do. So message me and I can help you do this. That's what I guide people through in my coaching programs, is to find this good foundation for you and what's going to work specifically for you. But I find that to be a prerequisite in this whole thing of figuring out how to enjoy yourself and also eat well and feel good 100% of the time. So the third piece in all of this is, when you are going out or you are at these events, is to bring some mindful awareness to your eating and food. If you go into it with no awareness, no plan, you're likely not gonna come out feeling really great about it. You find yourself next to the snack table and you didn't even realize you were just eating everything that was put in front of you, or you get swayed by someone giving you food or drinks, or you need to bring some mindful attention and awareness to this whole thing. And that just means being aware of the food, of your plan beforehand that you've kind of made before you go into these different social events. But that also means being aware of the food you're eating, of the drinks you're consuming, and most importantly, of how you're feeling. So all these three things are just really prerequisites in order to have this good foundation, so that when you veer off or when you go to social events, you don't have to feel bad and guilty. I think a lot of times, like what my girlfriends are talking about, is that they go out and will, want to just have a really good time and not care about eating healthy or being good. And then they feel really bad and guilty afterwards. And it's this horrible, vicious cycle. So I'm really passionate about breaking that vicious cycle and not feeling guilty about enjoying yourself, but just bringing mindful attention and awareness to it, knowing what works and what doesn't work for you, are really, really important pieces, and getting clear on your why, which is going to be different for all of us. So I hope that helps. So let me know. I would really love to know your whys. Everyone's are so different. So if you do that exercise and kind of keep going deeper and deeper and deeper until you get to that feeling place of, you're like, yes, this is it. This is my why. Keep connecting back to that. Tell me in the comments. I want to know. Okay, thank you.